Hello, I'm Mandi Lockley and I'm speaking for the Academy of Astrology, and welcome to our series of talks about Saturn. Now for this series of talks we're going to talk about Saturn, but to put it into context we're going to talk about a particular person's Saturn in their birth chart. We'll keep it simple but hopefully illuminating as well. We're going to talk about the Saturn in the chart of Prince Harry. Now, I'm sure most of you watching this know who Prince Harry is, but in case you don't, he's part of the British royal family. He is actually the younger brother of Prince William, who is second in line to the throne after his father, Prince Charles. So Prince Harry's not a direct heir, but he's one of the key, very important members of the royal family. He's also the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen's grandson. Now, we're going to talk about his Saturn. A little bit of context first about what Saturn is. Saturn is the planet of limits and obligations and duties and responsibilities. It can also be about the father and the family line going through the father, for example. It is about the things you don't want to do. It can be about the things you fear. It can be about building something in the world that's of value. It can reward you over time because it's about time. It's also about aging. Very much it's about tradition. And it rules actually two signs in the zodiac. It rules Capricorn and Aquarius. Now, Prince Harry's Saturn sits on his MC, on his chart. His chart is up here now, you can see that. You can see where it's circled. Saturn on the MC is circled on the chart, you can see that. When we see Saturn on the MC, we think, well, actually that's a very prominent place in the chart for any planet. So we know that Saturn is going to be important, but first of all, what is the MC? If you don't know what it is, the MC is called the median Chile, better known as the midheaven. You don't need to worry about that weird sounding name, the MC or the midheaven. Now the MC, it is the part in our chart, it's a very important angle, and it speaks of our status, our reputation. It does, again, like Saturn, actually have something to do with our family. And maybe our father's line, sometimes our mother's, but it has something to do with our family as well. And it's what we achieve in the world, our highest calling, our highest achievement, our vocation, as opposed to what we do just generally to make money or whatever. If we have a career or a vocation, we tend to look at the MC. It is also to do with, as I said, social status. Now, because Harry's Saturn is on the MC, we know, just by looking at the chart, just by looking at that position, we know that Harry's social status is very important. Now this is obvious because he's a member of the royal family, and it's all about social status, it's all about the tradition, it's all about the family tradition, it's all about how the royal family actually fits into the constitution of the British Isles, of and the Commonwealth. So we would imagine that there are a lot of Saturn themes in Harry's chart. Now, his family name obviously brings a lot of privilege, but because it's Saturn, and Saturn brings restrictions, we can imagine that his family name brings him huge restrictions, because there are other things in Harry's chart that speak about wanting freedom, wanting independence. But because of his status, because of who his father is, because of who his grandmother is, because of being part of an institution, a traditional institution, which is another highly Saturnian word, phrase, it can feel like a burden, we could say. And as I said, the family lineage is very important as well. He has lived his entire life in the spotlight, and the spotlight is very much what the MC signifies for the individual in their chart. So if you've got a prominent MC, you might be thrust into the spotlight. If Saturn's on the MC, you might not want to be thrust into the spotlight. You might want to escape the spotlight. You might be a very private person. Now, when we come to being private, we come to Saturn's sign. Because Saturn in Harry's chart is in Scorpio. And Scorpio tends to be a very private sign. Doesn't like to give itself away, and yet it's all there for all the eyes to see. Saturn in Scorpio at the highest point in his chart. The public interest in Harry has been huge. You have to look at you look over the years at some of the news stories, and I'll be talking about 2 or 3 of these during this talk. Now, Saturn in Scorpio also suggests difficulty with trusting others, and a fear, because Saturn can speak of your fears, a fear of betrayal. Now, betrayal can come in the form of having your misdemeanours, things you wish to remain private, Scorpio, privacy, revealed and maybe even punished, because with Saturn you can't get away with it. So what have we got? So, with Saturn in Scorpio prominent on the MC in Harry's chart, those misdemeanours that he may or may not have done, what he would wish to remain private, will be publicly revealed. And these public exposés will affect his reputation, which is another thing which is important to the MC, and also to Saturn as well, because Saturn actually has quite a lot of affinity with the MC. The natural sign on the MC is Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, so there's some affinity there. So it's a strong position for Saturn, as well as a difficult one. Anyway, what has he done? What are the misdemeanours that he's done? And we can have a look at that from the point of view of him being publicly revealed and not getting away with it. Well, for example, when a photograph of him at a private fancy dress party wearing a swastika armband was revealed to the public by the media, that was in 2005, it caused a public outcry, quite rightly. And the royal family had to make a public apology on his behalf. He was quite young then, quite a bit younger then, 2005. So they spoke for him. His family are the authority. They're one of the highest authorities in the land, as the royal family actually. So they spoke for him and made the apology on his behalf. And that's another thing that Saturn talks about. It's about authority as well. And when you're younger, you don't have much authority. You do what the law tells you. You do what, the law is often your father or your family or whatever. And obviously the law itself, that has something to do with Saturn. When you're younger, you have to accept that. When you're older, you grow into your own authority, and you have to take responsibility for your actions. So while he had to apologise publicly for this, as he gets older and he does anything wrong, he's going to have to deal with it himself and take responsibility, a very big Saturnian word as well. So, as I said, where Saturn is in your chart, you can't get away with it. So he couldn't get away with it because everything he does, the press are interested in him. He's a fun guy actually, he's a fun personality. You wouldn't think that just to look at the Saturn in Scorpio on the MC, but he is. And because his older brother, who one day his plan will be the king, Harry's got a bit more slack, you see, a little bit more freedom, but he still can't quite get away with it. Okay, so anyway, Harry, who wore this offensive costume, and Saturn in Scorpio can be about taboos, and wearing Nazi uniform and swastikas is taboo. It also, as we said, tarnishes reputation. As we said, the MC is about reputation. Of course, we were never supposed to know about it because it was a private party with Saturn and the MC, as I've said. He couldn't get away with it. Okay, so Saturn in Scorpio on the MC actually suggests there are secrets that he would like to hide. As I said before, it is a secretive sign, so when his private life is discussed publicly, it must be very painful for him. It must feel like a betrayal, and that is what it is, of course. Now, unsurprisingly, given Scorpio's association with sex, a sex-related scandal broke in 2012. And again caused a huge media frenzy. Again, he was betrayed at a private party in Las Vegas when he was with a few girls, and there were some pictures of him naked playing billiards with some girls in Las Vegas. He was letting his hair down, having a little bit of freedom ahead of him going to serve in Afghanistan. he was forced to publicly apologise. As I said before, now he's a little bit older. This was only a couple of years ago. Now he's a little bit older. That Saturn makes him take personal responsibility because he is old enough now to be his own authority and monitor his own behaviours. And what's interesting about his apology, and I'll read this out from this piece of paper here, was that it differentiates between two of his roles as a royal and his role as a royal and his role as a soldier in the army. So he said, at the end of the day, I probably let myself down. I let my family down. I let other people down. It was probably a classic example of me probably being too much army and not enough prince. And he was speaking his Saturn here in the talk about of letting his family down and letting others down. But he was also speaking his Mars. Now Mars is the planet associated with soldiers, and it's in fun-loving Sagittarius in his chart, forming a conjunction, which is a union, with rebellious, shocking, often freedom-loving, often unconventional Uranus. And this is where we see him wanting to have his freedom. Okay, so Mars is with Uranus in his chart. You can see the chart here, and they're being highlighted on the chart. So this suggests that Mars, which can represent a soldier, when he's in the role of a soldier, when it's with Uranus, it's saying, well, actually, he experienced some freedom. Now, most of us wouldn't think going to fight in Afghanistan will give him freedom, but for his situation, you can see how that might feel that way. He could be one of the boys. He was protected 100% by the media. Any media that he had was very much orchestrated. There was no paparazzis following him around. So you can see that it could have felt like a little bit of freedom. And he was living out another part of his chart in that way. He was living out the Mars-Uranus. But also the Saturnian. Because Saturn is in Scorpio. Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars, so the soldier, so he was doing his duty for his country. That's very Saturn in Scorpio on the MC. So I hope you like that little taster about Saturn. Also a little bit of learning about what the MC means, the midheaven, and also what Scorpio means and how those three all come together. Saturn in Scorpio and the MC. And if you want to find out more about the Academy of Astrology, underneath here you'll find all the links. See our website. We've got a course starting soon in a few months' time, and it's going to be for complete beginners. Also for people if you know a little bit, also for people who know a little bit of astrology but just want to really formalise their knowledge. We really hope you can join us. We really hope you have enjoyed this video and would like to carry on watching our other videos. If you do subscribe, check us out on Facebook and Twitter as well. Thank you.